Hello and welcome to the Kamala Show. We bring you interviews and conversations with technologists, entrepreneurs, filmmakers, and other news from in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. And today, my guest is Dr. Catlin Powers. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
So your Twitter bio reads, harnessing the sun to bring clean cooking to 3 billion people. So how are you harnessing the sun?
We're actually using a solar concentrator, and it's the world's most efficient solar concentrator. It harnesses the sun at more than 90% efficiency, focuses it to one point, and that point becomes very, very hot, reaches 750 degrees Fahrenheit within just a few minutes. And then we take that energy, use it directly for cooking, and also harness it for electricity, heating, and indoor cooking as well, water purification, essentially trying to build out a whole autonomous household energy platform using this technique.
Wow, that is so interesting. And I got to see the parabolic in action at the BITE Silicon Valley conference, where the famous chef Jose Andres and his team were cooking these solar cooked
delicious solar tacos.
Yes. The tacos were fantastic. Fuel, finding, cooking fuel. It's amazing. We live here in a energy abundant country where I have instant access to everything that I need, plug and play. I don't have to go anywhere. When my grandmother growing up in the Himalayas, she would spend half her morning going out to the forest, collecting firewood so that they could make the lunch and dinner.
That's right. And it's still that way for many women around the world.
And you've seen it?
Absolutely. That's why we started this company, why we started One Earth Designs. I was actually in my sophomore year in college, and I had gone up to the Himalayas on the Chinese side.
Why did you choose?
I was researching about climate change there.
Okay.
So I went up there for that purpose. And while I was there, I went out and started speaking with some of the local villagers. And one of the families asked me why all of these scientists were coming to their area. And I struggled in my broken Tibetan and finally...
You speak Tibetan?
Very little. And finally found the words to say, we're studying smoke in the sky.
Oh, okay.
And the whole family just burst out laughing and said, what a ridiculous thing to do. The sky's so blue, but there's all this smoke inside our homes. So they pulled me into their homes and we measured the household air pollution together, found that it was 10 times more polluted inside their home than it is in the air in Beijing, which is considered the most polluted city in the world.
Why was it more polluted inside?
Burning yak dung and wood for basic cooking and heating needs. So just the basic act of preparing their daily food was creating this very toxic environment inside their home.
And there were no health consequences?
Very severe health consequences. Everywhere from respiratory illnesses to cardio illnesses to cognitive deficit. Extreme cognitive deficit, in fact. So we're looking at about 4 million people in the world dying every year because of exposure to this kind of pollution from the stove, and many, many more people that have physical challenges because of this. Most importantly, the young children who are being exposed to this and as a result have a lower IQ and therefore perform less well in school and as adults as well. It's a cumulative exposure. So you can imagine a nation that's trying to pull itself out of poverty, and the majority of the population is affected by this.
So you're the CEO and co-founder of One Earth Designs. Clearly, you don't believe in barriers with a name like One Earth.
That's right. We don't believe in barriers between people, and we also believe in everybody needing to work together in order to make it possible for all of us to live well within one Earth's worth of resources. If we were to pull everyone out of poverty today and have all 7 billion of us living a middle-income lifestyle, we would need 5 Earths worth of resources in order to support it. So what can we do about this? We can use technology in order to develop systems and products that allow us to live a very nice lifestyle using fewer resources than we use today.
Okay.
So that's what One Earth is all about.
So you said 5 Earths. Let's just get to a very basic question. Energy poverty.
Yes.
That is something which is a reality for millions of people. I don't know whether it's billions.
Billions.
Is it 3 billion?
Yes.
Okay. What is the definition of energy poverty?
There are multiple definitions that people discuss, but the most basic one is that you don't have enough fuel in order to support your daily needs, or you're very constrained around that. For many, many people in the world, you have to go and collect your fuel on a daily basis. So women are waking up very early in the morning, going out, chopping wood, collecting yak dung, and bringing that back after hours of collecting to the home. And in some cases, women are going along treacherous pathways where either they're walking up icy roads and breaking ankles, or they're going through areas where there's significant ethnic conflict and being exposed to rape and physical violence along the way. Many, many women are exposed to that. In some areas also, the deforestation rates have been so bad that the local governments have outlawed any cutting of wood for residential fuel use, and in some cases repurposed army or other types of people to police the forests. And if women are found, they're beaten and their families are fined. So it's a very difficult scenario.
And this is the 21st.
This is today, yes.
21st century.
Many of the families that we work with. So it's incredibly scary for many of the women. When they wake up in the morning, they know the first thing they have to do is go collect the fuel so
and
their
water,
family can survive. And water as well, exactly. There's a lot of risk that people are exposed to. With the fuel scenario as well, one of the challenges in many areas is that if you want to send your child to school, you have to send them with a bag of fuel. And that's a huge burden on many families.
Really? Why a
Yes,
bag of fuel?
Because at the school, many children are going very far to school.
Are you talking
And
now
when
in China? Or
in China and many other areas as well. The children will travel a far way to the school. And then when they're at the school needs a way to heat and cook food for the children. So the families have to supply the fuel. It's a big challenge. And in many areas, the young girls are staying home and collecting fuel so that their brothers can go to school.
So the lack of energy has a ripple effect.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's the combination of the energy scarcity, the pollution that comes from many of the fuels that people have to use, the expense of those fuels, and how it interacts with education and gender and health in the communities.
So we have a small video clip of Soul Source, the solar cooker, and I think what the video shows is how this Tibetan lady goes about collecting fuel. And I think the idea for your Soul Source cooker came from a local Tibetan person.
Absolutely, yes. I was living with the nomads actually and migrating with one family, and oh boy, I made the worst nomad that the world has ever seen.
I believe you don't like horses.
It took me a while to learn how to ride without embarrassing myself.
So now you can ride.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But we worked for a long time trying to use the traditional stoves and find a way to make them more efficient, and it just was not working. We tried so many different routes, and so we had a village meeting. Everybody came together, and we're telling stories to try to figure out what a solution could be. And one of the village elders said, you know, a number of years ago, I received a solar cooker. It was a gift from the government. And I went to pick it up. My wife walked 18 kilometers to the road. When she got there, she found a 95-kilogram slab of concrete with mirrors on top of it. And that was our solar cooker. So it was a huge struggle to bring it back to their home. When they set it up, it saved them fuel. And then 3 months later, it broke because when the weather changed, the concrete completely fractured.
So you took that as a
challenge.
As a challenge, and you recreated, and I believe you went through 50 different models.
That's right, 54.
54.
Yes. And I'd be happy to speak with you about what all of the technical changes were that we made in that process.
Can you say that in a minute?
I'll try. So the biggest one is our reflector. Traditionally, there were only 3 types of reflectors used in this technology. None of them worked well in this scenario. So we developed a completely new reflector. It's 92% energy efficient. It's resistant. It's self-healing through these big sandstorms. So when it gets a scratch, it heals around that scratch.
Sounds like a sci-fi thing
for us. It's just the elastic properties of the material we use.
Can you tell what property or what material you're using, or that's proprietary?
Proprietary.
Okay. Okay.
And it's also the first 3D formable material that is so lightweight. And that's important because we're able to achieve the optimal geometries for concentrating solar energy. So we're getting about 1 kilowatt out of the system, and we can use it for cooking, electricity, water purification, all the needs of the household. So that's our number 1 breakthrough. Number 2 is so simple, but in these devices previously, the cook was leaning into the front, getting all of this concentrated UV in their eyes. And so we created a user interface that allows the cook to stand behind and comfortably do all of their cooking.
Oh, so that's why the parabolic thing, it looks like a satellite dish.
Yes, and then it has a V.
V,
right
oh,
behind. Yes,
so that's for you,
exactly,
for me
exactly.
to stand and put my...
That's right. And then everything breaks down into small parts. It's about the size of a guitar case when it's disassembled. So easy transportation, wind sturdiness, just basic things that really make a difference to the experience of using it.
And how heavy is it?
This one is 18 kilograms. We are coming out with one that will be about 4 kilograms, but that's for the future.
Okay, so 54 iterations. When did you introduce the product then?
In the very end of 2013 for the first time.
In Tibet?
Yes, the Himalayas. And then slowly we grew from there, and then now in several other countries around the world, 38 countries in fact. But in the beginning, I think we were a bit unusual in the way that we did things. So many of our families have no cash income. So we started out bartering with people.
Oh.
Where we would provide the solar
old style,
grill.
Silk Road style.
Exactly, exactly. And the types of things we would barter for are barley flour and yak dung and caterpillar fungus.
Which is very expensive.
It's a medicinal herb and it's worth more than its weight in gold. So we would barter for that up in the Himalayas and then take it to Hong Kong and Japan and trade for it.
Were you allowed to take that out of China?
You can, yes.
You can,
yes.
okay.
You
So,
have to
and
go
what did
through
you
the
do with the
proper
yak butter?
The yak butter we also either ate or bartered. It was our initial survival.
Okay, so
Yes.
you and your co-founder, Scott Frank,
yes.
met, literally speaking, in the
Yes.
highest plateau in the world.
That's right.
In Tibet. This is when you found out as a sophomore from Wellesley, when you were visiting Tibet, you found about this, the pollution inside the
Yes.
nomad tent.
And how severe it is. Yes.
And I think through the grapevine you found that there was an MIT engineer who was doing things.
You know, I ran into a young student and he said, you know, there's a teacher that's come to the provincial capital nearby, and this teacher is going out to his students' villages and working on the engineering projects that they care about. And that's so unusual. People come to our region and either they're tourists or they're here and they say, oh, you poor people have this, you have that. And so to have somebody come and listen and try to build what people cared about was very unusual. And I decided I needed to connect with him. So I went and knocked on his door, and it turned out to be Scott. And we ended up building a very good partnership over the years to build the company.
What was it that he brought to the table?
Engineering, an incredible mind. He's one of the most brilliant people that I know. And I think somehow our two minds work really well together. So immediately when we started working together, we were just synergizing and so many different ideas going back and forth. So, yeah.
And what did you bring to the table?
Science and I think a different sort of love for people, perhaps. I had grown up in many places around the world, and so for me it felt very natural being in diverse settings and building partnerships with people and making very deep friendships. Scott also loves spending time with people and bridging cultures, but I think he also prefers a little bit more alone time than I did. So somehow we balanced each other out with these different aspects of our thinking and personalities.
And you're based in Hong Kong?
Our company is headquartered in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I personally spend my time in all of the different places where we're creating new markets and working with new people, because there's so many learnings that we have every time we work with a new group.
You're also a B corporation.
That's right.
Which is what Ben & Jerry's is, and
Patagonia.
Patagonia,
yes.
So tell us, what is the advantage of a B corporation? Does it mean that you're not interested in revenue, or what is the difference? Why would somebody go and become a B corporation? What are the advantages?
Very good question. So a C Corp, which is the more traditional business model, is a company that in its charter says, we are out to make money. That's the bottom line. A benefit corporation has a triple bottom line actually in the corporate charter. So it says we are out to try to maximize value across finance, environment, and social benefits as well. So we try to be a company that's there to build a good society, not just necessarily to make money. And because it's in our charter, it means that our investors, our partners, everybody needs to come on board with balancing all three of these aspects, as opposed to just going for financial benefits. So it's something that we require of our investors and shareholders as well.
Well, talk to us about investment. Do you have investors, seed investment, or have you won prizes and that's how you...
Yes.
How did you infuse capital into your project?
In the beginning, it was 100% bootstrapping. We were first living in the nomadic areas and building, and then 10 of us moved into this little tiny apartment in Xining, where the nearest shower was 2 miles away. So it was quite a trip.
So you'd walk 2 miles?
Yes. We all got to know each other very well without having a shower in the place. And then after that, we started building the product. And foundations started coming to us and wanting to give us design awards or different awards for our work. So that was the early financing. And then when we went to scaling up manufacture and actually working with a formal manufacturing line, we went out and we raised investment capital from impact investors. So Duin Foundation and Calvert Special Equities are our 2 main investors.
And how much did you raise?
We raised 1.3 million.
And are you looking to raise another round?
We're considering opening for another round soon. Right now, we're sustaining completely on our own revenues, but we are thinking about some expansion steps that may lead us towards that.
So your product is available now, you said, in 38 countries.
Yes.
It's available in America too, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that you have this parabolic satellite dish solar cooker, what else can it do? It's just not a cooker. Are you harnessing energy for other things?
Absolutely. So we only use cooking for a small percentage of our days. During the rest of the time, the system is still harnessing a whole lot of energy. So now we are releasing products that store that energy inside thermal batteries that you can then take inside and cook at nighttime or heat your home with. They're modular, so they stack. You can use kind of almost infinite snacking, not quite there yet, but getting there. And then we're also doing electricity generation, water purification off of these systems, and opening up as a platform for our users to also build systems on top of it as well. Because there's so much energy that's provided, there's incredible opportunities. Some of our customers, in fact, are using it for things like metal smelting, which was a surprise to us. Yes.
Okay. And the next market you want to break into is Australia?
Australia is on the list. We just opened the Scandinavian markets this past month.
Oh, does it work in cold climates?
Yes, absolutely.
How?
You can get down to -40 degrees and still have it working, as long as you have the sunlight.
Oh, even if it is cold?
Yes, yes.
And that watery sunlight is enough for you to fire up the solar cooker?
What do you mean by watery?
Well, you know, when it's not bright like here it is in California. You know, I haven't been to the Scandinavian countries, but you see pictures, right? There's little gray.
Yes, you do need direct sunlight, but as long as you can see your shadow, it's still good to use.
Oh,
yeah.
So is it, you opened in Scandinavian countries?
Yes, so this past month we entered retail in Scandinavia, and it's been going quite well there. And we actually had a few early customers getting it from abroad and taking it back to Scandinavia over the winter, and a few people using stadium lights to cook sausages and things on it, even during the dead of winter in Scandinavia, when the sun never rises.
So the stadium light works?
Yes.
That's a good source of light?
Apparently.
Okay. You grew up in different parts of the world, and you went to college to study chemistry.
Yes, I actually went for international relations, but I fell in love with chemistry in my first semester and never looked back, just 100% in.
And then so from there, how did you go to environmental sciences and what you're doing now? What was the path that brought you to where you are today?
Yes, so I was studying chemistry and taking all of these different opportunities to try chemistry out in the real world, which is what led me to this research up in the Himalayas. And when I started speaking with the local families and finding out about this household air pollution problem people were facing, I left everything. I dropped out of school, left my research, started spending time with the families, migrating with them and trying to build these different technologies together.
But what propelled you? I mean, you were also subjecting yourself to all the pollution if you're living with the nomadic family, with the nomads.
I was giving myself cognitive tests as I went along through the day to track how it was affecting my brain performance.
And you saw a difference?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, and so I was trying to help people know when to go outside and breathe and try to push that out of your lungs. Because it's mainly the carbon monoxide, which is a gas that has a 4-hour half-life, that is causing that cognitive deficit. So trying to help people understand that and adapt behaviors accordingly.
And carbon monoxide can kill you.
It's exactly.
Deadly.
Exactly. And so I was very concerned about that. And alongside building these technologies and building the company, I also started some research looking into how often people were experiencing carbon monoxide poisoning and PM2.5 exposure.
What is PM2?
It's a small particle, it's a soot particle that deposits deep in your lungs, and it causes cardiac issues and respiratory, chronic bronchitis, things like this. Very damaging to your health.
Oh, and so that's what you discovered?
I didn't discover those things. People have already known about those two pollutants, but I wanted to study how it was affecting people in this population and how people could adapt, which technologies were the best at reducing it. So I started this study. We found that 99% of the people in the population had carbon monoxide poisoning at least once in every 3 days. It was a very, very difficult situation. And you asked me how I went about this pathway. When I started that research, I was raising funds from the NSF and various groups here and then reporting back to them the findings. And through that process, I got in touch with a number of professors here in the United States. And one of them at Harvard University said, I would love to have this research inside my doctoral program. I would love for you to come join us, but you have to finish your undergraduate degree first.
Oh, as an undergrad, you got that invitation from him.
That's right, after I had dropped out of my degree program. So I went back, and my professors at Wellesley were amazing. They helped me condense 2 years of studies into 1 semester. I finished everything up. They worked so hard to make that possible.
How many credits were you carrying in that 1 semester?
Oh goodness, I have no idea. It was a lot. And it was hard work for me, but also hard work for the professors, because they took time.
That is insane. You as a sophomore, and then I mean, that is insane.
It was a good time that semester.
So in 1 semester you finished and then you graduated?
Yes, yes.
And then you went to...
And then I started the doctoral program at Harvard. And I spent a little bit of time there in courses, but the majority of my doctoral program I spent in the Himalayas, building up the company and continuing the research.
What was the research on?
It was looking at the largest improved cook stove program that has ever been run, 185 million families in China. And it was a distribution of a particular type of stove that was designed originally for use with coal, a cleaner way of burning coal. But many of the families that received this stove were using biomass fuels instead, yak dung, wood, crop residues from the fields. And these fuels have a different energy density from coal. So it turned out that when they were using those fuels inside the stove, it was actually creating more pollution rather than less. So we brought those findings to the government and worked through how to change that situation and actually start reducing the pollution instead.
You're talking about the Chinese government.
Yes.
You took, and what did they implement in terms of solutions for whatever you found?
They're actually building a whole new clean cook stove program, looking specifically at matching the fuels with the stoves. And there are a whole bunch of new stove designs. They're also looking at our stove and a number of other ones that trying to match what the local needs of the populations are.
So you fundamentally helped them change their perspective.
Got people to think more about the fuel behavior stove relationship and how that affects the household air pollution and the health outcomes.
Wow. And do you work with other governments also and other nonprofit organizations? How do you work in promoting? Because one of the things is you have the product, but getting traction is the second part.
Yes, yes.
Because this is not an easy...
It's a very good question.
So how do you go about doing it?
It's different depending on each region. So up in the Himalayas, we initially thought that we would create this sales team. So we went and we recruited the best salespeople in particular areas. But it turned out that because each valley has been isolated from each other for so long, different languages, different cultures, the salespeople really had a challenge when they went valley to valley. So what we discovered is that our customers are actually the best salespeople for us. We had so many customers that would come back to us and say, we want to order 10 or 20 more to go and sell to relatives and friends.
Not barter, I assume.
No, not barter. Well, I suppose they might sometimes do barter. But what we ended up doing is offering them a commission and having this customer-based referrals program. And it worked so well because in this area, the sisters move into their husbands' villages. So we saw brothers going to all their sisters and introducing Soul Source, and then, 11 new villages, and then the sisters would show it to their husbands and so forth. So it just spread out like this.
By show and tell.
By show and tell, by word of mouth, customer referrals. We found that working with retail in a lot of countries is the most successful, but still the word of mouth is very important for us. Even here in the United States, we're seeing particular customers become big promoters of the product and go to their farmers markets and show it off and tell all their friends on social media about it. So,
what do you cook on?
I cook on Soul Source, and when I'm traveling, I often don't have a Soul Source with me, so many times I'll cook on whatever's available as well, the local adobe stoves, things like this. I really enjoy learning new recipes from all the families that I'm visiting.
How many languages do you speak?
Oh, I speak bits and pieces of several languages, but I'm not sure I would consider myself fluent in any. Even I struggle with English sometimes.
I don't think so. When you say bits and pieces, I'm sure you can hold a basic conversation in many languages.
In several languages,
In
yes.
several.
I enjoy being able to converse directly with people when I can.
And Catlin, where can people find more information about, what is your website?
It's oneearthdesigns.com, and that's all spelled out. So oneearthdesigns.com. Yes.
Catlin, thank you so much for stopping by today and talking about how you're harnessing the
Solar
sun,
energy.
the solar energy. Is your favorite song Let the Sun Shine?
Yes. And looking at the power that solar thermal energy can provide to everyone around the world. Yes.
Thank you so much for stopping by, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kamla. It's my pleasure.
And thank you for stopping by. If you missed any of our interviews, you can watch them online on our YouTube channel. We'll be back again with another interview. Until then, goodbye, and thanks for tuning in.